Welcome back to Expand the Visual. I'm Jordan Taylor, and this is my second travel video. In the last one I made, I was talking about this book, The 4-Hour Workweek, how it was changing my life. It's still changing my life. In the last video I talked about how it brought me to Africa, and I was in Ghana at that time doing this long-term travel thing and just starting out. So I made that first video, and then I don't know what it was, but there was just some kind of block that was keeping me from making a second video, even though from right now to that time I've done so much traveling. In just a few months I've lived in Egypt for 2 months, and now I'm in Greece. So this is my first time in Europe, and I think that what was happening with making these travel videos is I wanted to set up and have an over-the-shoulder shot of the Sphinx or the Acropolis or something like that, or show myself on the beach with palm trees. And then so I got hung up on that, and then I was thinking, okay, well, what is a travel video gonna do for somebody? Am I gonna talk about 10 tips for packing luggage, or these are the 5 restaurants you should visit in Cairo? But all that stuff just felt like bullshit to me, and I think for that reason I just ended up not making any travel videos and not documenting what was going on. Even though we have plenty of footage about what we were doing, there wasn't something valuable I felt like I had to share on camera. All that stuff seemed manufactured, and there's 1,000 versions of that fake ass shit on YouTube already. So finally it dawned on me there was something worth talking about, and it relates to this book, The 4-Hour Workweek, which is still changing my life. I mean, other than the dramatic fact that I'm living in Athens and that I lived in Egypt for 2 months and went to Ghana, I mean, that all was life-changing. But there's a small section in this book that I'm not sure if it's gotten any play, really. So I would like to just read it. It's a very short section, and then tell you why I thought it was worth sharing. So on page 256, it has a section called Purging the Demons, Emotional Freedom. And there's a quote by St. Augustine: "This is the very perfection of a man, to find out his own imperfection." Tim Ferriss writes, very briefly, "True freedom is much more than having enough income and time to do what you want. It is quite possible, actually the rule rather than the exception, to have financial and time freedom and still be caught in the throes of the rat race." Well, it's interesting because you think the throes of the rat race are not having your time and your finances, being dependent on some kind of job. So that's a weird thought already. How can you still be caught in the throes of the rat race? "One cannot be free from the stresses of a speed and size-obsessed culture until you are free from the materialistic addictions, time-famine mindset, and comparative impulses that created it in the first place. This takes time. The effect is not cumulative, and no number of 2 week," so that's spelled out like the number 2 and week as in most people get 2-week vacations, but he says also called 2 week, T-O-O, and week as in you suck, you're lame. So 2-week sightseeing trips can replace one good walkabout. "In the experience of those I've interviewed, it takes 2 to 3 months just to unplug from obsolete routines and become aware of just how much we distract ourselves with constant motion." I'll skip a little bit. It says, "Learn to slow down. Get lost intentionally. Observe how you judge both yourself and those around you. Chances are that it's been a while. Take at least 2 months to disincorporate old habits and rediscover yourself without the reminder of a looming return flight." So there are a couple things there to touch on. The first, well, actually, just one thing. He says it takes about 2 to 3 months just to unplug from obsolete routines. And then it's echoed again in the last line. Take at least 2 months to disincorporate old habits. So this is what I found to be the most valuable thing from this book, is that I was prepared to understand that on this long-term travel, it's not a 2-week vacation, and that there were going to be experiences I was going to have, and I don't mean tourist experiences, I mean experiences I was going to have in my heart, my soul, my mind, a transformation that I would undergo just by being able to take a step back from all the crazy, the 9 to 5 parenting, school, meetings, trying to fit in entertainment and self-development and all that. It's at this 3-month point, I can say that's a lot. People have a lot going on, and you don't realize really what your life has become unless you can go through this escape hatch of long-term travel, and then suddenly you're on the outside looking in. And I know when I got to Ghana, I was so used to those 2-week vacations that for the first month of being gone, really, I was just in vacation mode and going through those motions of the 2-week vacation. And then when I was in Egypt, that's when the obsolete routines really started to come to my awareness. And it's almost like the machine of life, the way it's normally running, you develop these habits and routines in your life to keep it all together, to keep it from falling apart. It reminded me of like patching things up with duct tape or baling wire, or the way if you have like a shitty car and it's got oil leaks everywhere, but instead of fixing and replacing the gaskets, you just keep dumping in new bottles of oil to keep it running temporarily, not realizing that the whole time you're doing that, the gaskets are just getting worse and you're causing more oil leaks, and eventually the whole engine could just blow up. And that's what I kind of felt happened to me in Egypt. Is I had developed this habit of just pouring in oil to keep the thing going, to keep life going. And suddenly I didn't need to do that anymore, and it created this real bizarre mismatch of what my life actually was now, but those same old habits and routines. And I don't know, I just saw myself like being really hard on my kids unnecessarily, and I saw myself acting in a lot of really ridiculous ways, not being able to slow down and take the time that I needed to have introspection. And you see, I'm having problems even articulating it because I'm still in this transition phase. But there are a lot of things that I look at now, that the habits that I developed just to deal with everyday life, the throes of the rat race, that quite frankly, I'm ashamed of, I'm not proud of, and I don't really know quite how to redesign those habits and routines yet, now that I'm out of the rat race, whether that be temporarily or permanently. But this is the way that I wanted to make a travel video and share that this book and this experience is changing my life. So I guess if you want 10 tips to pack your luggage, you're going to have to go elsewhere. But if you want to understand how long-term travel really does have an impact on a human being, well, stay tuned, and maybe you'll see some more of these travel videos coming.